Hi, everybody. My name is Jonathan Leek. I'm a solution architect for Astronomer. I've been using Airflow for a long time, a while, and been a data engineer for about 10 years.
And hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Winters. I am Director of Service Delivery at Astronomer. And I've also been in the industry for a long time, more than I can tell you guys. That's why I get Botox, but no, over a decade. But what I was going to say is we get to help customers a lot. And over a year ago, we started to follow the practice of a center of excellence at Astronomer internally and then apply it to our customers. And we saw a lot of cool stuff happen, and we wanted to share it with our community. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk to you about what is an actual center of excellence, why is it important for Airflow, what does it look like, what is the blueprint of a center of excellence, and some cool impact that we have seen internally and with our customers. And since this is a duet, I'll hand it over.
All right. So to start with, in order to look at what a center of excellence is, we're going to look at a few of the business questions that come up with not just Airflow, but any platform, right? Your business, when you bring a new platform to your organization, the business side of things is going to ask questions like, can we trust this platform? Are we actually using it? How much are we using it? Are we using it effectively? And these questions tie back to some more tangible business requirements that end up being kind of the pillars of what the Center of Excellence does, right? Technical and operational reliability, continuous adoption, continuous optimization. So at its core, the Center of Excellence is a structured program to address those requirements by codifying best practices, establishing ownership, scaling onboarding, enablement, support, driving continuous improvements, basically being the experts about that platform. So now we're going to address like how that applies to Airflow. Like, why do you want one for Airflows specifically? The technical and organizational reliability, right? So reliability is kind of the foundation that business operates on. You need reliability and predictability in order to plan, in order to forecast, in order to make decisions. I like to think of it a lot like Legos, right? Legos have intense quality control. They have very precise mathematical relationships with each other. And because of that, I can look at any two given bricks and basically know how they interact with each other, what I can do with them, and that allows me to be creative with them. If I couldn't look at any two bricks and be like, okay, the holes in the bottom of this one stick to the studs on top of the other one in a predictable way, I wouldn't be able to use them and play with them. So in terms of building that reliability for Airflow, the number one way to build that is like just success over time, right? If something has worked for me in the past, I trust that it will continue to work for me in the future. That's not a great answer when you're asked like, how do I build trust in my platform? Is like, wait. So there's some more tangible things you can do in the interim, right? Documenting your procedures and best practices assures people that you have a plan and that you know what you're doing. Formalizing ownership gives them the security of knowing they have someone to run to when something doesn't go according to plan, someone who knows better, right? I am more comfortable hiking if I'm with someone who knows the trail. In terms of stability and high availability, there's kind of a two-piece component. A, you have to make it reliable and stable by enforcing best practices, both at the platform level and the user level, but also monitoring those, right? So that you can demonstrate that reliability. That's why we talk so much about like number of nines of reliability when we talk about platforms. And then finally, like, is that usage dependent on a few individuals, right? If Joe Airflow gets hit by a bus, do we suddenly not know how our orchestration platform works? So in order to combat that, you want to centralize all of that knowledge and document things. You want to enforce standards so that even if a particular DAG isn't particularly well documented, if there are standards and it looks like the other DAGs, I can probably figure it out with a high degree of accuracy and relatively quickly. And formalizing that ownership so that when Joe Airflow gets hit by that bus, I know what he was responsible for and what I need to start reverse engineering now, instead of finding out 6 months from now, oh shoot, this hasn't worked in 3 months and we didn't realize it because the guy in charge of it died.
Yeah, so I feel like, at least in my career, across organizations, across industries, we see this happen time and time again. Like, their subject matter expert left. I feel like we've all been in a situation where not only do they leave, but then leadership changes and whoever comes in wants to use a different tool. And then you get stuck still having to do your job, and you still have to perform, you still have to predict with what you have. So this is what drives us now into like making sure that we continue to adopt. I think all of us know how expensive platforms can be, how expensive software can be. So when you do get access to having a tool, you want to make sure that people know how to use it. And if they know how to use it, if they can use it to the best of their abilities, that will benefit you and help you reduce cost or make better predictions, whatever you need, then you can standardize things. And again, standardize them in a practical way. We don't want to just like put another standardization on top of a standardization that makes no sense. It'll make smarter users. So one of the biggest things is when it comes to adoption, you also want to make sure that you know what you want to measure, like what is success of adoption for your team? What are your KPIs? Is it like, are we building better DAGs? Are users logging into the UI? How frequently are they using it? Are we getting people certified? That's one of the biggest things that we see at Astronomer. Like, are people getting certified? Like, we have an incredible academy that, again, we have thousands and thousands of people utilize it, and it's incredible. But we want to make sure that we can drive certifications. We'll talk about a little bit more about that later on. But again, we want to make sure that we can help there and overall improve the developer experience. Like, when you get someone come work for you, how much faster can you make them successful? Will they have a clear path to understand what tools they need to use, how to use them, have the space to train on them? Maybe sometimes in parallel to starting to do your job. I feel like we've all been there, but at least to know what that is so they have a better experience. And when they come to, I don't know, they're 30 or they're 60 and they have to actually go do their jobs, you have a better prepared team.
And then kind of the last pillar is that continuous optimization piece. The reality is, like, Airflow is constantly changing. Your organization is constantly changing. The environment you're operating in is constantly changing. And that change creates new opportunities and, some new challenges. And you need to constantly be adjusting to that, constantly learning, constantly improving, right? You don't want to stop with the wood pickaxe because that's the one you've got. As soon as you can get that next one, you grab it because now I can mine Ruby. So the way the Center of Excellence can help address that, a big part of it is that optimization is on the cost and performance and maintainability side, right? So one of the things that we do a lot with customers, we call them health checks. They're like a standardized review of your environment, right? Are things sized appropriately? Do you have your configuration variables set to what they should be for what you're doing? DAG reviews are very common, right? Are we using current best practices, or are we doing things the way that was prescribed in Airflow 1, but isn't necessarily the best way now? You want to document those best practices so that it's easier for people to use them, especially as you bring new developers on board. If you have documentation explaining the standards that you follow, it's easier for them to follow it. And ideally, you want to build tooling so that they don't have to necessarily know how to do that correctly, right? And that's where things like dynamic DAG generation and DAG generators and DAG factory, tools like that come in, is that you can allow people to start developing and following your best standards and best practices without even necessarily knowing what they are. And then outside of that, you as an organization need to be determining, are you using it as effectively as possible? So as you learn new lessons, are you learning them as an organization or as an individual, right? Getting that constant feedback from your team and the users of your platform, fostering a culture of learning. I mean, we're at the Airflow Summit. You guys are all doing this very well. Good job. And following up on those lessons learned. And after the summit, are you going back to your team and sharing what you learned in like a structured way? Or are you just kind of talking about it over the water cooler? Like, how many of you are giving presentations when you get back about something that you learned here?
So before we move into the next slide, talking about continuous optimization and transparency, like we just had to do an exercise like this. I feel like Annie, you're here. So we just launched a new product, and you guys know how that goes. Sometimes they can be a little bit of bumps. So what our team does really, really well is like we came together and we built lessons learned. From there, what we did is we're like, okay, what does this mean to pre-sale? What does this mean to post-sale? How does this affect projects when we actually have to go implement this for customers? And we were able to do it fast. It wasn't perfect. You know, like sometimes it can start with a Google sheet. Like it doesn't have to be this whole thing. It just has to be effective and it has to be put into action. And we were able to improve the process right away and like put it into practice. And I feel like we're going to start seeing more and more improvements as we mature in this process. But again, you have to be able to say, hey, this is not working. Let's go fix it. Let's document it. Make sure that everybody knows how to do it now. So when it comes to building a COE, what does it look like? So it's kind of two things that you have to do first. You got to understand what are your objectives. Like, what do you need to accomplish? Like, what do you want to make sure that is better? Like, what do you want to improve? What will that yield? Like, are you going to help reduce costs? Are you going to increase expertise in your team? And then bring it to your leadership and like get executive sponsorship. You definitely will need that because you're going to have to collaborate with other teams. What you're doing might affect other teams. If you change a DAG, it might impact another team. So you want to make sure that that is built into your program. And of course, like we just said, that feedback loop is massively important. Like we live in an era where everything changes, technology, processes, needs. So you have to be nimble and you have to be able to say, okay, hey, our engineers, our developers are saying this is not working. How can we put it into place? And I think, especially in this community, that's super common. So keep that feedback loop going. And now, if it's okay, we're going to just talk a little bit about the impact that we've seen through the Center of Excellence. So we've seen massive gains and like definitely really cool things happen when it comes to performance, cost, overall airflow expertise adoption, and then reducing the time people are spending on edge cases. So we're going to just share a little bit about where we've seen improvements. So with performance, I feel like we have so many stories. I picked one that's my favorite. But again, when it comes to performance improvement, we've seen just overall from conducting sessions or putting plans together to improve DAG generator optimization, like create DAG generator optimizations, making sure that we have best practices all around writing DAGs, and then make sure that we do better configurations and like tuning configurations, making sure worker queues are set to the best of their performance. We have definitely seen people gain massive value, like from faster pipelines, getting higher success rates, meeting SLAs, etc. I feel like in this case, one of my favorite examples is we had a medical customer that handled a lot of customer medical files and like results, et cetera. And they were in another airflow environment and they were having a lot of issues where it caused an outage. And then they came over and by our team being able to help them review their code, do an architectural review, then put best practices around DAGs, they've now been able to see zero critical issues for about close to 2 years right now. So it's been pretty cool. No bragging rights, but it's just nice to see that they're winning. When it comes to cost improvement, that's also a really, really cool one. We do that every day. I feel like, John, your team is where you get to help people the most, from coming into reviewing a customer environment and help them figure out what can be hibernated, if we can go ahead and like right size. And one of the biggest things is migrating from a legacy scheduler or environment, coming over to Airflow. This is where we've seen a ton of gains, from reducing your overall airflow cost to being able to help customers get out of legacy contracts. I think one of our biggest wins here was helping customers avoid having to renew with a legacy scheduler and coming over, and they've saved over close to 600, 700,000 on renewal costs with that tool. And then once they came over and we started to implement the Center of Excellence, we could then put in like always environment reviews followed by cost optimization. So they continue to see that trend. It doesn't just end with that initial migration. We continue to help them implement this. Then the other area, I think I touched this at the beginning of our conversation, but this is where honestly growing the airflow expertise, I can't stress enough how important it is. We have a lot of customers that, again, have just Joe Airflow. And it's important that everybody knows this information is available to everyone. And then what we do is we, on top of that, create enablement sessions that are like tuned to our particular customer needs. So if they want to adopt a specific feature, we might talk about that. If they want to plan an upgrade, what are best practices around that? We just want to make them experts. And what we do is we then push for certification. So yes, you took the courses, but do you have the credentials? They're free to get, so why not? Let's just drive people. So I think the way I always talk to my team is I call it like the proverbial like Weight Watchers moment where you have to like weigh in front of everyone. So we get everybody to take classes and then we pick a day and we all get certified on that day. And we have a team, like the RSA team that will be there to help you get this. And then you can get like, I don't know, we've gotten sessions in which we walk away with like 30 people certified in one session. So as a owner, like as a manager of a team that needs that, it's great to be able to get that outcome and then tell your leadership, hey, we accomplished this. Look at us improving so fastly.
Yeah, it's the certifications are really important, especially for the Center of Excellence, because that's how you like quantify that learning, right? Learning is really important. It's one of the most impactful outcomes of a COE, but certifications are really the only way you can go to your leadership and be like, look at all the stuff we learned. So probably my favorite benefit is the edge case resolution. So when you have a team within your organization that's dedicated to the platform, and works with all the different teams that end up using that platform, you have some experts that can help step in when one of those teams hits something weird, or can notice patterns across your organization where like maybe there's a common stumbling block that every team hits, but none of it doesn't hurt any of them enough for them to prioritize fixing it, but it affects every team. So a great example of this is like custom timetable logic. We noticed that many of our, especially like our financial customers, are creating custom timetables because they have regulatory requirements that they need to meet that require reports to be created on a certain schedule, and that schedule is very not cron friendly. And by looking at those and starting to talk with the open source team, we kind of noticed that, hey, while like it's not cron friendly for one cron, if they could just make like 2 crons, they wouldn't have to go through this painful process of creating custom timetable logic. So we were able to help them do the custom timetable in the short term, and then long term, Airflow 3 now has the multi-cron trigger timetable where you can just give it 3 different crons that define the schedule, and that entire need, that edge case, just ceases to exist. Another one, we had a lot of customers that were showing interest in like really custom disaster recovery needs. One customer in particular was like very demanding, had like very precise requirements. We created a DAG to help them with that. And now I'm presenting that DAG to probably like one customer a week that comes to us asking about like how to handle disaster recovery in their Airflow environment. And I can show them this DAG and we can walk through it. And it's usually not 100% fit, but it's a starting point, and it's something that we can work from and build towards their particular use case.
Thank you. So yeah, again, this is how we've seen the success of these of this mindset and of these new processes that we've decided to follow benefit us internally as a team. Like it's easier to train people when they come in on board, share knowledge, and then it's impacting our customers as well. again, adopting a center of excellence, it's not about adding process, it's just about giving your teams the structure that they need to be able to achieve operational excellence. And I don't mean that as a slogan. We truly see this happening and yielding really great value. So we wanted to share with everybody, and we appreciate that.